friends, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. I'm back at work after being sick for almost a month now. I am playing with my March dollar bead box and dollar bead bag. I get both of them, and I have to say this is one of my favorite subscriptions. I get a lot of bead boxes, but this was one of my original ones years before I was on YouTube, and back then it wasn't even curated, but now it is. So I do have a discount code. I'll put links in the description box. The price of this is extremely affordable, and it is always packed with very high quality check glass beads. And this month is no exception, and we even got a couple of special little things in this month's box. These little hex seed beads were in this month's box, and I'm using those. So I just sat down here and started to play, and what I ended up doing is creating 3 different pairs of earrings, and I'm working on a bracelet. So I'm going to share those with you. And one of the things I wanted to share, I mean, everybody might already know how to do this. This is one of the earrings, but it is very easy to make your own charms and your own connectors with a little bit of wire and beautiful beads like this. So this is the beads from the box, and I'll show you, I've added in some seed beads because I also love getting my Adornable Elements Beads of the Month club, and I'm alternating a seed bead and gemstone subscription, but I love getting that little curated seed bead selection, so I dumped some of those here. They come super organized, labeled with what it is, and I decided to add a little bit of green into this box. So this is a charm or dangle, and this is the method of doing it where you're actually making a connector for yourself. Whoops, poor little guy. So I've also started doing some little components here for my bracelet. Like I said, I'm just always so inspired by this box. When I sit down to start working, I think I'm going to make one thing, and the next thing I know, I have 4 or 5 projects. So you also see in my little dish here some things that I just pulled from my stash, some 4mm metallic bicones. These are some little 3mm bicones that I've had for years. Anything else? The rest is all from our dollar bead box and dollar bead bag for the month of March. And these I did use a little bit, like I wanted to add a little bit of bling to the Lucerna lavender bicones that were in the box, but I'm working on another project with some of these extra things, and I'll come back in another video for that. So let's jump into this earring. So these two, this earring and this earring, do not have an ear wire, and I'll show you at the end if you're not familiar with the lever back interchangeable ear wires. That's why they have just a loop at the top. So I'll show you that when I'm done filming. When I'm done making, I mean, and then I'll show you how they attach if you haven't seen it before. And then I had this little ear wire from my stash for this little turbine bead. I did this earring super simple, minimalist, on a chain with a little splayed head pin, because this is one of my favorite check glass beads. It's a rather expensive cut to do. It has this turbine or this swirl cut here, and then it has table cut facets around the middle. So it's a very intricate bead cut, and it's one of my favorites, and so I just couldn't resist just featuring it on a little piece of chain. So let's do this one first. This is so easy. This little coin bead or lentil bead with the hole at the top in this mauve and black, it was just so gorgeous. So what I'm using is a ball head pin, just a simple ball head pin, and I'm going to put it through the lentil bead. In fact, these beads, I'm going to have a look here because you can see these beads are different even front to back. So since I'm doing earrings, I want to kind of choose the sides that match. And then I'm just going to bend this head pin straight up. And so now my lentil bead is not going to slip off. It's not going anywhere. And you really see the beauty of the glass with just a little dot right in the middle. So I love that. And then these hex seed beads, oh my goodness, they're so pretty. And what I did to really highlight them is some 11-0 seed beads in between the hex beads. So I just had these from my stash. These are galvanized in a light beige, so it's a very pretty gold. And if you're not familiar with seed bead finishes, galvanized is like a Duracoat finish. That means they will keep their color, especially for metallic ones. I love getting a little extra finish because if you do any kind of work that you love, the galvanized really protects that gold finish. So I just filled up my head pin wire, starting with one of the little hex beads. They are small, but oh my goodness, they sparkle. And then I just, in between each hex bead, I just loaded on a seed bead. And of course I want to do them the same length. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was the sweet spot for me. Okay, and I love to use my one-step looper for earrings like this because for me, I just feel like I get really matching consistent loops. So I used my smallest size for this. It's the 1.5 millimeter. And for this earring, because I'm going to attach it to interchangeable lever back ear wires, I know that my one-step looper makes my loop going up like that. So I'm going to turn my lentil bead sideways. You can always change the direction of a loop after it's made, but if you know what you need it to do, it's nice to do it, you know, from the beginning. And I'm just going to gently close my tool. I can see that I'm right where I need to be. The tool makes a fresh cut for you, makes the loop, and then I'm just going to pull my stack of beads down a little bit so that I can see that loop is centered on my earring. And when I take it away, I have a really nice loop. If you don't put your wire on this back plate, sometimes the tool will not make the closure perfect, but it's a simple loop meant to open and close anyway. And I like to open and close my pliers on a loop just to work harden it. And so this little pair of earrings is done just like that, and they can go in my jewelry box next to my interchangeable lever back ear wires. Okay, let me put away these little hex beads. And so this earring is unbelievably easy. I have this beautiful solid brass chain from Purity Beads that's e-coated for anti-tarnish. So it's like in the quality level of gold filled. I absolutely love this chain. And I literally had a little scrap left from another project. So I just have 8 links for each earring. And I'm going to take one of my splayed head pins, and you can totally make these, but I did have these in my stash. And I'm going to load on my beautiful turbine bead. And like I said, I love this bead so much that for me, it doesn't need spacers. It doesn't need anything. I just wanted it to float and be like a pendulum. So I'm going to do the same thing, get a little simple loop in here. And now this little simple loop gets added to the bottom link of this chain. My little cat is talking to me. Bella, what do you want, honey? Is it time for breakfast? Okay. Okay, and now I'm going to simply add the other link of chain to this pretty little ear wire that I have and close that really well. Just because my chain is so fine, I want to make sure that that loop is closed really well. And then I wanted to use up my links of chain, but I don't know if you can see, but it's making it so that my little splayed head pin is going this way. So I'm going to come in with 2 pairs of pliers and just turn it so that my splayed head pin is facing the front of my earring. I normally try to work the orientation out when I start making an earring, but I wanted to use up the last little 16 links of this beautiful chain that I had, so I just made it, and I said I'll just, you know, adjust the loops after I see how the earring looks. And I want to close this perfectly well. I don't want to see any gap on that loop. That looks great. Let's see how that looks now. Much better. Just made a little adjustment to my head pin. Beautiful. So that pair is done. So the last pair is a little bit more involved, but not difficult. Oh, here it is. So I'm also going to be using my one-step looper. I'm going to take 2 of these Lucerna bicones in this beautiful opaque lavender, and I'm going to take a piece of 20 gauge craft wire. This is from Softlex Company. I used in this project, I used a 22 and 20 gauge wire for all the different elements that are here. And same thing, I'm going to just put a simple loop in one end of this wire, and I'm not going to even, I guess I will tidy up my loop. Sometimes I just leave them and do them all at the end, but I do like to work hard in them. And then, as I said, I just wanted a little bit of green in with the lavender and the whites and the purples. I just thought it looked very, the green just looks fresh and alive, and, you know, a little bit of spring magic. So a seed bead, I have a little burr on the end of my wire. Okay, a seed bead, a lavender Lucerna bicone. This is one of my favorite check glass beads, this pressed glass bicone. I love all the angles and the geometry, but it's also very soft and all the edges are really smooth, and I just love this bead, and I love this lavender color. So that's my little component for the earring. And same thing, put a simple loop, and you guys, you can totally do your simple loops with your pliers. You know, everybody gets their own rhythm in making components and things. I make a lot of jewelry, you know, like sometimes 30 to 50 pieces a week, and it really saves my hand to have tools to do things. So let's see, there's that. And what else did I make for this? Oh, I used one of these 8mm check glass Drux, and these are little head pins that I make, a little figure 8 head pin, also on 20 gauge wire. I have a whole video on making your own head pins, so I'll link that in the description box below if you want to see how these are done. But I make them up in advance so that when I sit down to do a project like this, I have some of my handmade head pins to choose from. Simple loop again. Okay, and this component is already done, so we'll go ahead and connect this earring, but then I am going to show you how to make your own components and your own charms. It's kind of the, I think maybe everybody already knows how to do this, but it's the same way that you would make a daisy flower, but I did it with the check glass in the box, and it's a really pretty effect. So this is simple connecting. I'm going to open this simple loop and add it to the bottom of my handmade connector. And then I'm going to open this simple loop. Oh, and on this one, I do need to, if you can see on earrings, the orientation of your loop does matter. So I did these both going parallel to my mat, but in fact, I need this one to be going horizontal to my mat, and I need this one to be going perpendicular to my mat. So easy fix. I'm going to take 2 pairs of pliers. They go this way, and I'm just going to turn one loop just like that. So now that's going to hang just right facing forward. And I'll open this bottom simple loop and add the other end of my handmade connector. and close it really well. And so now that earring is done and ready for my interchangeable lever back ear wires. Let me show you what they look like if you haven't seen them. So here's what the interchangeable gold-filled lever back ear wires look like. They have this little cradle in here, and I just love these because I get a lot of bead boxes, and this way as I make earrings, I don't have to have an ear wire every single time, and they're gold filled. So I'm putting high quality metal in my ears. Straighten that head pin a little bit, and I just love them. My earrings are secure in them. So like this pair, like this goes on, and you just put them in your ear, snap it closed. They're really easy to take on and off, and I just love it. I enjoy making my earrings, and then I have 2 or 3 pairs in my jewelry box, and I'll just lay my earrings in there like so. Sometimes I do, like on these, you can put a chain in here, but it's a little bit easier to have an ear wire like on a chain design. So it's just some earring options. So let's set all that aside and let me show you how we do this component. So I am going to go down to my 20 gauge wire from Softflex for this. Let me get a little piece out here, 22 gauge, and you need a little more than you think because you're going to be wire wrapping loops. So I would say this is maybe 7-8 inches. I don't want to run short. And then what I'm going to do is take these fluted 6mm beads, and I dotted this with those green seed beads. So I'm going to feed one on, and then a seed bead. I normally use my little seed beading tray for this, but I only need 4. So a seed bead, a fluted crystal bead, a seed bead, and a fluted crystal bead. And now I'm going to not put a seed bead and put another fluted crystal bead, and then resume a seed bead and a crystal bead. I'll show you why there's only going to be 4 seed beads in the pattern because I'm making this into a connector. Looks like this. It's like 2 sections of 3 with a seed bead in between. Now if you want to, you can use a mandrel, but it's 22 gauge wire, and I'm generally okay doing hand sculpting to get my circle in here. So just don't pull any kinks in your wire, and it is 22 gauge, so it's quite easy to manipulate. And I'm just going to get a nice circle. Sometimes put your finger in the middle of the circle helps. Just pull it into a circle. And when you're happy with it, you're going to just pull this one wire toward the middle and pull this wire up. And if you want to, of course, nylon jaw pliers are always great when you're doing wire working, but now you want to straighten it. And so that's what we have so far. And you can, at the very end, you can do a little bit more shaping if your circle isn't right. And now I'm going to take one of these opaque lavender 6mm Drux and thread that onto this wire and kind of let it rest in the middle. And now I'm just going to smooth and warm and curve this wire, because without kinking it, I need to go through my circle. I think this is the trickiest part, and it's really not difficult. Just get a single wrap in there. You can see what I'm doing to get it in place without kinking it, because I need to make a wire wrapped loop, so I don't want to damage this wire. And I'm just going to pull just like that, and now it's nice and secure. And now I can come back with my nylon jaw pliers and straighten everything out. And now I'm going to just put a wrapped loop. Just treat this as if it were a bead. Get a hold of it with my pliers, 90-degree bend, and put my round nose pliers in there, bring my wire over the top barrel, rotate, bring this around, and I just like make sure that that loop is centered on my component. And now I'm just going to wrap right down to my beads. Trim off in the back and tuck that cut end so that nothing is sharp on my component. And I'm going to come to this side and do the exact same thing. Get a hold of my wire and put a nice neat wire wrapped loop. And my little component is done. Now to make it into a charm, you do the exact same steps, but when you get here, you tuck this under, snip and tuck it under, and so you only have one loop. And you can do this with any beads. Making your own connectors and charms with beads is really fun. I want to save my Lucerna bicones for my other project that you see supplies out here for, but even the bicones would be pretty. If you do smaller beads and do the same size bead in the middle, you get that daisy look, which everybody knows how to make. But that's my little component, and I've already started doing some things here for my bracelet that I want to make. And this is just going to be simple, a simple like beaded chain, like a connecting project. So I'm going to take some more 20 gauge wire, borrow 2 more of my Lucerna bicones, and then I'm using these gold filled spacer beads for just to add this little shiny gold element. I really love these. I'll put a link to them in the description box. They come in several sizes, and they just had really good reviews for not tarnishing and things like that. So I'm going to go up to my 2 1/4 millimeter one-step looper. I do that when I'm making any kind of a beaded chain, and I'm going to make my components, and I'm thinking that I want to connect this bracelet with double jump rings on each connection. So let me make a few of my components and I'll show you how we're going to connect. So I am going to make another component for my bracelet, but if I wanted to do another charm, I would simply wrap this right here, snip it, and tuck it in between the 2 beads and only do a loop on the top. But I'm just going to do another one of those with a loop at the top and bottom, so I have another bracelet component. Okay, I am connecting my bracelet, and I just wanted to show you, I'm just literally connecting with double jump rings that I made out of 20 gauge wire. So each link that I've made has 2 jump rings through the loop, and I just want to show you what it looks like with just one, because it's so pretty when you do 2, or sometimes I even do 3 jump rings. But I'm just going to open it and attach it to my link and then to my component that I made and close it. And I just want to show you the difference because this is something I've been doing for a long time. But see, I mean, it looks pretty that way, but it takes on like an artisan chain look with just 2 jump rings. It's just so much prettier. So I'm going to do this last one, just add the second jump ring and close it. And I am going to use one of my gold filled kind of decorative lobster claw clasps on this end, and I just got some new chain from Purity Beads. If you've been around my channel, I'm sure you've heard me talk about them. I met this father and son business at a bead show, and they have solid brass chains that are plated and then e-coated for anti-tarnish. And so not only is it high quality, but they're just beautiful. I just love them. And, you know, chain, I do brush my anti-tarnish coating over beads and other findings, but chain is a little challenging to get the coating onto. So it's so nice to, you know, have a really high quality chain. And so this bracelet will be adjustable. This is one of my favorite ways to make a bracelet. So I'm going to add the chain to this end. And then I also am making some other charms out of just plain 6mm beads. So we can make our own charm sets. I'm going to use the rest of the beads that I have here, and I'll show you how I do that. And so these are solid lengths, so I did have to cut one to get my, you know, to get it off the strand, but then it just becomes like a fancy jump ring. So I'm going to add that to my handmade charm and then add it right to the bottom of my bracelet and just close it just like it was a jump ring. I just, you know, I don't waste anything with these chains, and they're good and sturdy. And so as a jump ring, you know, it just works out beautifully. So my bracelet is now adjustable. This little lobster claw clasp can connect anywhere on that chain, and then I'll always have that little charm. But I want to add something else to my chain. So I take my 6mm beads, especially these beautiful check glass, really opaque, light, you know, lavender beads, and you see a little color variation, and I turn them into charms. It's really easy to do. I have one more here, and I'm going to use 20 gauge wire and just put the bead right onto the wire and let it drop down to the middle, and then just draw the wire together at the top of the bead and just get your two wires together. Use your bead to hold on to and just get your two wires together. Just like that. And then I'm going to take a pair of nylon jaw pliers. I'm going to take a pair of nylon jaw pliers and just get a hold of my two wires, and I'm going to use the bead. A larger bead makes this a little bit easier than a 6mm, but I'm gently holding it here, and I'm just going to twist the bead, and I'm holding on to it with my nylon jaw pliers. And I'm just going to twist the length. You can even, if you have two pairs of nylon jaw pliers, you can even, if you don't have a good grip on your bead, you can do it with two pairs of nylon jaw pliers. I do better with my fingers though. And just twist all the way to the end. Okay, that's more than I will need. So I'm going to stop there, and I can just trim these little ends away. And from here, if you wanted to do a wire wrapped loop, you can, but I'm actually just doing simple loops. So I'm going to get a hold of that twisted wire, just pretend that it's a single wire, give it a 90-degree bend, put my round nose pliers at that bend, and just bring it over, rotate my barrel and bring it around, and just, I want to just center that loop on my little bead charm. This one got a little wonky. I try to keep it in the center, but it will look pretty. And I just snip right where my loop is meeting the downward part of my wire and just close that really well, work harden it, and then from here you can straighten anything you need to. And so it's just a nice way to make a little charm. In the past, I have purchased charm sets, but you can make your own. So I'm using the same bead that's, you know, in the middle of this, and I'm just going to take some really small jump rings that I made. I use the same wire for the entire project. And I'm just going to, you can actually put these anywhere, but I'm going to start right here and add one. And I'm just going to embellish my extender chain with these little handmade charms. Okay, I am all connected, and you know, I was really sick this month. My son was in the hospital, 2 different hospitals for a week, and so I was not thinking that I would be able to get to every single bead box that I receive. So I was trying to do just really small projects, you know, with each of the boxes, just to represent the boxes and share them with all of you. But what started out to be a single pair of earrings, the Dollar Bead Club is very inspiring for me. It's one of my top 3 favorite things that I would want if I was on a desert island. I really love getting the Dollar Bead box and the Dollar Bead bag. The price is so reasonable. Adding on the Dollar Bead bag is only $8 a month for check glass strands. And so as I started to say, I was only going to make a pair of earrings, and it's turned into 3 pairs of earrings and a really beautiful bracelet for the spring. And so I hope that you gleaned a little something from this video, making your own charms, your own components, maybe in a little different way. And I hope everybody is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Check the description box for links, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.